right, let's have a discussion about that now. The 44th Southern African Development Community Summit. We'll speak to SABC News International Editor Sophie Mokoena. Ms. Sophie, thank you very much indeed for joining us this morning. So while we saw attempted protests in the run-up to this gathering, what are we expecting to be high on the agenda in Zimbabwe?
Well, clearly issues that are related to the cooperation of this organization or member states. And high on the agenda will be your issues that are related to trade and investment. But of course, there will be political issues that they will have to grapple with. For example, when you look at the situation in the DRC, in the eastern part of the Democratic Republic of Congo, where the SADC troops were deployed there, even though not all countries contributed to that contingent, South Africa being part of that contingent and a bigger force in the contingent, they will have to grapple with that. But also, you've had issues in Cabo Delgado, that is Mozambique, where the insurgents killed many people there, and we saw the deployment of the troops again there. But later, those troops, some of the countries did withdraw. And you are now left with, did withdraw, and you are left with only Rwanda assisting Mozambique, and therefore SADC will have to do something. The other important issue is the drought. You know that member countries such as Zimbabwe, Mozambique and Zambia, Malawi were affected by this drought and the issue of food security. And of course, a thorny issue behind the scenes, I think, would be, you know that there has been tension between Zimbabwe and Zambia. There's Zambia as a country, and the president of Zambia, Hichilema, yesterday didn't even attend in person the meeting of Troika. He had to join virtual because of that tension between the two countries. And it's expected that he is not going to be there today during the meeting of the heads of state and government. And therefore, on the ground, you also have people who are not happy. And we saw the clampdown in terms of activists who wanted to add their views in terms of how they feel as citizens of Zimbabwe. And therefore, you have these issues, but of course, they will be discussed behind the scenes. And some of the tone of response to these issues, it will be difficult to know what the leaders said, because when they come out, they are going to be diplomatic.
Ms. Sophie, talk us through again the issue relating to these tensions. That was my next question, in fact, about why the Zambia's president did not attend yesterday. Talk us through what those tensions are. Remind our viewers about what seems to be the main bones of contention between these two countries.
You'd recall when Zimbabwe went to elections, the former leader of Zambia, who was a former senior person in Zambia, who was chairing the SADC mission on elections, observation mission to Zimbabwe, presented a very hard-hitting report in terms of what they observed, and almost saying that elections were not free and fair, and therefore requested SADC to look at this report and do something. And that led to tensions because the person who was leading the SADC observation mission in Zimbabwe was a Zambian. And therefore, it got so personal and also political accusations. But it got even worse when President Mnangagwa visited Russia recently. There was a leak audio, during the photo op of two leaders. There was a recording that was released. In that recording, President Mnangagwa was complaining to President Putin that about Zambia and Zambia having a military base of America or having the Americans on their doorstep. And you know how Russia feels about the Americans. And therefore already that led to tensions because all these member states, they do have military cooperation with all countries around the world. You saw South Africa doing the drills with the Russians, with the Chinese, with the Americans, the same with other countries. Botswana, a few weeks ago, hosting a meeting of leaders from different countries that are in charge of military, including the Americans. And therefore, when you go to another country, you talk about the other country's relations with another country on military cooperation and perhaps intelligence. It will, of course, lead to tensions. And therefore, this is where we are. And yesterday, Hishelema didn't go. He did join, and he has now handed over that chairmanship of Troika to Tanzania. And today, we don't expect him to be there. As you can see, President Ramaphosa arrived earlier on today. He didn't arrive yesterday. He arrived only this morning, and it will be straight to the summit. He's not going to be part of that fanfare we saw yesterday where leaders were paraded to demonstrate that they support President Mnangagwa, but some leaders felt that we are here for business, will arrive when we're supposed to do what we are supposed to do, because at the end of the day, we have to attend the SADC meeting.
SABC News International News Editor Sophie Mokoena, thank you very much indeed. And as you saw, South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa leading that SADC delegation there, seeing a press release a bit earlier on this morning from the South African presidency that Angie Motshekga is acting president while Ramaphosa is out, of course, at leading that SADC delegation.